So, there's a piece that I'm going to be responding to from Lifestyle News, and the title is just demonstrably fucking untrue. And when you hear it, you'll think the same way I do. So, the title of this piece is All Human History is Ordered to the Birth of Christ, ignoring all the fucking evidence to the contrary, given the tens of thousands of years, even hundreds of thousands of years of human civilization before the birth of Christ, and, the fact that it's just a story that cropped up about, oh, fuck me, a couple thousand years ago, at least. So, yeah. And if the Romans had executed everybody who was Christian, like maybe they should have, you guys would be a fucking cult or non-existent. So, yeah. The author of this, Stephen Cockx, however the fuck you pronounce that, it's COCX. Sorry, not COC. KOKX. So, yeah. Anywho, I'll leave a link to it if you want to go read it for yourself. But let's get into it. There's an all too cliche saying that history is written by the victors, ignoring what, historians have also done. And that's why we have evidence of, Japanese internment, what we did in Dresden, fucking what we did to the Native Americans, what we did to black people. So, hey, history isn't really necessarily written by the victors. The meaning is that after a conflict has taken place, the winners are able to portray themselves as heroes while characterizing their opponents as villains whose ideas are to be cast into the abyss, never to be heard from again, which is really fucking funny, given the fact that we beat the fucking Nazis twice in recent history, once in the 1930s, and the second time in the fucking 1960s, and we're going for a third fucking round with this shit now. And yeah, I wish Nazism would have been in a waste fucking basket of history, but we're still fucking dealing with this shit because of white supremacy and people not acknowledging that white supremacy is a fucking thing. Anywho, it has been argued by not a few individuals that the defeat of Germany during World War II and the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 meant any governing philosophy not named liberal democracy was destined for what Ronald Reagan once called the ash heap of history. Which is really funny, given that, Ronald Reagan almost brought us to the brink of fucking destruction a couple times, with him being a senile little fuck in charge of the nuclear codes. Donald Trump is trying his damnedest to complete that fucking legacy. The past 20 or so years has proven that theory false. The rise of Islamism, democracy's devolution into despotism, via a deep state, which, a couple things. One, the deep state is just a rehash of the NWO, and that in and of itself is also just a rehash of anti-Semitism, with the likes of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, that clusterfuck that's been disproven. It's just an extension of all the other shit. But even outside of that, you know why there's a deep state? It's because Donald Trump hasn't actually filled any of the positions mainly in his fucking administration, so all the people that are in there are holdovers from the Obama administration because he hasn't filled those fucking positions. Because he's an incompetent jackass. That spans multiple continents, and liberalism's increasing hostility toward religion suggests the convulsions mankind experienced in the 1900s have not yet come to an end. Also, liberalism's increasing hostility towards religion, ignoring your own fucking hatred of Islam. But, that's not a real religion, or whatever such shit you'll fucking say. Furthermore, the resurgence of anti-globalist, which, globalist is a dog whistle for Jews, because the whole Jews run the world thing, can't really say that shit anymore, so you have to fucking use dog whistles like globalist. So, when you say anti-globalist, you mean anti-Jew. Just throwing it out there. Some might say anti-liberal. Attitudes currently sweeping Europe indicate Christians are no longer willing to sit idly by as their heritage is torn apart under the guise of one of liberalism's core tenets, tolerance. And, you say anti-liberal, I say fascist, because you basically don't like liberalism. You want to shut up liberals. You want to control what liberals can and say and do and where they can do it. So, yeah, you're arguing for a fascistic state, which began, at least the root of modern fascism, began in, Italy with the fascists, led by Benito Mussolini, and then Hitler got in on that shit. And just all the people who have kind of parroted his bullshit but added a Christian tinge to it. God forbid, it's like their heritage is torn apart, which, if that heritage is anti pretty much immigrant, which is also another thing that you don't seem to understand, Nazi Germany was very, very against immigrants and people who weren't white, and you're doing the exact same things and saying the exact same fucking things Nazis fucking did. So don't come at me and say, oh, you just call everybody you disagree with fucking Nazis. No, you're acting like fucking Nazis. You're acting like textbook fucking Nazis. Don't want to be called a fucking Nazi. Don't act like a fucking Nazi. And you do realize tolerance doesn't mean ignorance of things, right? Tolerance is just, everybody who isn't an asshole, let's get together and make the world a brighter fucking place and fuck all the people who want to make it a darker fucking place, which would include Islamic terrorists and all other kinds of fucking terrorists, because they're just, Muslims don't have fucking the market cornered on that shit. It's a fucking Christian terrorists, atheist terrorists, fucking white nationalist terrorist, fucking... Essential to a proper understanding of human events is the recognition of the social ramifications of the birth of Jesus Christ, which did jack shit to change anything, and in fact, only really led to more and more violence in the region. Also, technically led to the creation of Islam, which is a religion you hate so fucking much, because Islam came after Christianity, and Jesus is mentioned in the fucking, the Quran, so just saying, correlation is not causation, but it's a pretty good fucking indication of, where things came from and where to fucking go. As Pope Pius XII once remarked, it is impossible for anyone to expound fully and impartially the history of events and institutions without the light of Christ and His Church shining clearly forth in superhuman brightness. As said by someone who, isn't impartial, and anybody who would have been impartial by objective standards wouldn't have been impartial in his fucking eyes because of the whole him being the fucking Pope. In the 21st century, partisans of liberalism, in an attempt to accomplish what their communist forefathers could not, namely eradicate from existence the Catholic faith, which I'm pretty sure the fucking communists didn't want to do that shit. Also, plenty of Christians died under fucking the Nazis. I'm pretty fucking sure if they weren't, in the party, if they weren't, willing to get along to go along, they ended up fucking dead. So, yeah. We'll often assert that supporting same-sex marriage, promoting transgender rights, expanding abortion, and the like places oneself on the right side of history. More so than parroting the shit that Hitler fucking said, but what the fuck do I know, right? I'm just a loony liberal. No doubt to many persons in our agnostic age, you also realize that agnostic means that you don't know. It's like you don't know if there's a God, and So it doesn't matter, Agnostic atheist is like, you don't know and it doesn't matter because you don't believe in God. Maybe you meant anti-theistic, because there are anti-theists out there. There are people who hate fucking religion of all stripes and colors and creeds and fucking ethnicities and they're fucking assholes. Chief among them, at least in my eyes, is that scum fuck, Warcorp 666. Fall prey to the sort of moral superiority the high-sounding claim of being on the right side of history brings with it. Which, I love the fact, the moral superiority. You're claiming that you're morally superior because of Jesus. So you can have the whole moral superiority thing as a detraction when you yourselves are doing the exact same shit that you're saying other fucking people are doing. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean that it's right. But the inconvenient truth for those who have succumbed to this fairy tale, which again is really funny coming out of the mouth of someone who believes in a long dead Jew who came back to certain numbers of people and then ascended to heaven, and who was all human and all divine, which is impossible. Who's also the half-breed son between God and Mary, who, Mary got fucking raped by God. And, there's all of the plagues, To borrow a phrase that I heard, and I have no mouth and I must scream, I'm kind of sick of this turgid passion play. But the inconvenient truth is that to place oneself on the right side of history means placing oneself on the side of Jesus Christ. So all the people who have been Christian, like the Klan and the Protestant and Catholics who fought in Ireland, they're morally superior to an atheist, say. Father Dennis Fahey, an Irish priest whose books on economics and politics are a must-read for any Catholic interested in the subjects, wrote as much in the 1940s. Which wasn't a great time for the world. The World War II was going on. Japanese internment, the Holocaust, ethnic cleansings of other fucking stripes and, colors and creeds. The Klan in America, Jim Crow in America, all the really shitty things that happened in Australia. After its miserable fall from God, the creator and the giver of heavenly gifts, separated into two diverse and opposite parts, of which the one steadfastly contends for truth and virtue, the other of those things which are contrary to virtue and to truth, which, whose truth is the fucking question I have to ask with that shit, and whose virtue, because God's virtues are all kinds of fucking scatterbrained. Don't murder, don't steal, don't have any gods before him. Nowhere in it does it say not to fucking rape. Nowhere in it does it say not to fucking rape kids. So, are your virtues really that great, God? Not really. The one is the kingdom of God on earth, namely the true church of Jesus Christ, which is a fucking no true Scotsman fucking fallacy, but whatever. And those who desire from their heart to be united with it so as to gain salvation must, of necessity, serve God and his only begotten Son with their whole mind and with an entire will. Which kind of shoots the whole free will shit in the fucking head, but the other is the kingdom of Satan, in whose possession and control are all whosoever follow the fatal example of their leader and of our first parents. Even though God created Adam and Eve, and even then, Eve was created from Adam, which is weird and kind of fucked up when you think about it for too long. Those who refuse to obey the divine and eternal law, and who have many aims of their own in contempt of God, and many aims also against God, because God's a fucking asshole. In effect, what Father Fahey is saying is that Christ is the king of history. Well, I'm going to choose, the king of the cruiserweights, Neville, or the king of kings, not Jesus, but Triple fucking H. Or the kings of wrestling, who, are a bunch of people. Anywho. He is the true victor, the victor over the grave. It is his birth that all things are ordered to, which is not the fucking case. And it is his story that will ultimately prevail over the varied schemes fallen, pride-filled man concocts in order to maintain power and justify his errant behavior. Then why do you guys have your own fucking separate government? Why did you guys protect pedophiles and a whole host of other fucking things? Why did you guys fight the Protestants in fucking Ireland that led to tons of fucking people being killed? Christ's kingship imposes itself upon the nations of the world no different than the law of gravity imposes itself. Except that the law of gravity is real, whereas the law of, the Christ kingship isn't fucking real because he's an imaginary friend made up by a bunch of people thousands of fucking years ago when they were tripping on fucking mushrooms or dying of alcohol poisoning because they had no real, clean water back in those days. Saint Cyril of Alexandria says, Christ has dominion over all creatures, a dominion not seized by violence nor usurped, but his by essence and by nature. Then, why all the fuck, if God's the king of kings, why all this fucking fruity bullshit that you have to fucking do? Pope Pius XI, in his 1925 encyclical Quas Primas, which, gotta say, it's kind of fucking prima donna-y to, write in Latin, a language that's been dead for a couple thousand fucking years at this point. His kingship is followed upon the ineffable hypostatic union. From this it follows not only that Christ is to be adored by angels and men, but that to him as man, angels, and men are subject and must recognize his empire. Well, angels really don't have a fucking choice in the matter, given they're just pawns in the eternal struggle between Satan. They have no fucking free will. The one angel that did have free will got sentenced to fucking leading in hell, so... Christmas, therefore, is not just another time of year. Yes, it is. It is not just a feel-good season where we get excited about Bing Crosby songs, who Bing Crosby's a fucking dickhead, and sipping spiked eggnog while watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for the 100th time. Personally, I've never had eggnog. I prefer a hot toddy. That's just me. It is the solemn yet joyful celebration of God becoming man, redeeming him, and calling upon each person and nation to share his glory by living according to his laws, which kind of sounds fascist when you think about it. All nations will have to follow under the fucking heel of Jesus. No democratically elected governments, none of that shit. You gotta follow Jesus and God. And how the fuck is that any different than the people who are in Saudi Arabia who run shit by the fucking Quran? There's no real difference between the two fucking shit. Except one's Christian, one's fucking, Muslim. And, Israel's run by... I know it sounds shitty to say this, but it's run by Jews. There's some Arabs who are in the Knesset, but it's a bunch of Jews who run things. Chief among them, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's an asshole. And a lot of people he fucking put in his cabinet are also assholes. Let 2018 be a year where this becomes a reality. Let it be the year where Christians zealously follow through on their heavenly duty to go forth and teach all nations the truths of the gospel. Which kind of sounds fascisty. Just throwing it out there. You know, God's a very impatient asshole. You know, he has time immemoria. You know, he has fucking the whole of eternity to do this shit, but he's on a very tight fucking schedule. Weirdly, it's kind of strange. So, there are 3 comments. First one, Jimmy. I think that the kingship of Christ is rising in Eastern Europe and Russia. You know what's also being, rising in Eastern Europe and Russia? Killing of gay people and trans people and people who aren't white. Cross 804 Hokey US. That's literally his fucking username on Discus. Merry Christmas. May Christendom be preserved and the good word be spread far and wide. Like chlamydia. Santiago Matamoros. Excellent article. I would clarify only that the true church on earth is composed of all who trust in the Son of God. The Son of God's kind of a fucking prima donna, and, the whole cult of personality thing. It's not very godlike. It's also kind of idolatrous, but what the fuck do I know, right? Anywho, ta-ta, have a wonderful fucking Christmas.